Cancer. There is something I want to address right at the start of this reading, because it sits at the center of what is happening, and without naming it directly, the rest of the reading might not land as clearly as it should. The thing is this: people sometimes push away the very person they want most to keep close. The behavior is contradictory, and most people who do it cannot fully explain why they did it, even to themselves. It happens because of fear, specifically, the fear of being too vulnerable in front of someone whose opinion of them has become unusually important. When someone matters to us at a level that exceeds our usual emotional bandwidth, the response is sometimes to create distance, to act in ways that protect us from the vulnerability the closeness would require. The distance, while it solves the immediate problem of vulnerability, creates a larger problem. It separates us from the person we actually wanted near. The separation produces its own pain. The pain is what is currently active in the person we are discussing. I want to walk you through what is happening inside this person, because the inside is the heart of what is occurring. They are sitting with a sadness that they have not been able to fully name. The sadness is the appropriate response to having pushed you away when they did not actually want distance from you. They have been reviewing in their interior the moments when they acted in ways that produced the distance. They are seeing those moments with clearer vision now than they had at the time. From the perspective of clearer vision, the moments look different. They look like mistakes, not catastrophic mistakes, but real ones. Mistakes that produce consequences they did not intend to produce. The sorry that they are feeling is real. It is not a performance designed to draw you back. It is the actual interior state of someone who has come to understand that they harmed something that was important to them through their own behavior, and who is now sitting with the awareness of what they did. The sitting is uncomfortable. People generally avoid this kind of sitting if they can. The fact that this person is sitting with it tells you something about the substance of what they feel for you. They are willing to face the discomfort of their own complicity, rather than constructing narratives that would absolve them. The willingness is one of the markers of someone who is capable of real accountability, which is one of the more valuable qualities in any potential partner. I want to address why they pushed you away in the first place, because the why matters. The why is not that they did not care. The why is that they cared more than they were prepared to handle. Their previous emotional experience had not equipped them to receive feeling of the kind that arose between you. The unfamiliar intensity produced the defensive response. The defensive response took the form of distance. The distance protected them from the vulnerability of letting the feeling fully develop, but it also separated them from the situation that produced the feeling. The separation has, in retrospect, been more costly than the feeling itself would have been. The recognition of the cost is what is now driving the sadness. I want to take a moment to address you, because the situation involves your response, and your interior matters as much as theirs. There may be a part of you that has been wondering during the period of distance what you did to produce the pushing away. The wondering may have included some self-blame, some attempts to identify what was wrong with you that caused the other person to withdraw. I want to address this directly. You did not produce the pushing away through anything wrong with you. The pushing away was about them, not about you. It was a function of their own emotional patterns, not a verdict on your worth or your behavior. You can release the self-blame. It has been based on inaccurate information. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to slow down here because the information I am sharing may produce a particular response in you, and I want to make space for the response to be whatever it actually is. You may feel a kind of vindication on hearing that the pushing away was not about you. The vindication is valid. You have been carrying a weight that did not actually belong to you, and learning that the weight was not yours can produce relief. You may also feel anger that the other person's emotional limitations produced consequences that affected you. The anger is also valid. You can hold both the vindication and the anger simultaneously. They do not contradict each other. You may also feel something more complicated, a mixture of compassion for what this person is experiencing now, combined with caution about whether to allow yourself to be drawn back into a dynamic that previously produced pain. The mixture is reasonable. Allow it to be present without resolving it immediately. The resolution will come through the unfolding of what happens next, not through forced internal processing in this moment. I want to share what I am sensing about what is likely to happen next. The person is likely to attempt some form of communication with you in a window that is closer than your skepticism would estimate. The communication may be tentative. It may not arrive in the form you would predict. It may come through a small message, or a request to meet, or a gesture that does not involve direct words but that signals their state. The form will be whatever fits their nature and the specific circumstances. The content will include some acknowledgement, in whatever form they can manage, of what they did and how they feel about it now. I want to address how to evaluate any such communication when it arrives. The first thing to consider is whether the communication includes specific acknowledgement of what they did, rather than vague apologies that do not name the actual behavior. Specific acknowledgement is one of the markers of someone who is taking real responsibility. Vague apologies are sometimes the protective response of someone who wants forgiveness without actually facing what requires forgiveness. Specific acknowledgement, by contrast, demonstrates that they have actually examined their behavior and that they understand what they did. The second thing to consider is whether the communication includes any indication of what they will do differently going forward. Real change requires not just acknowledgement of past behavior, but also some sense of how the patterns will not repeat. The indication may not be a fully developed plan. It may be small, a statement about what they have learned or what they intend to be aware of, but some indication should be present. Without it, the apology can produce a cycle in which the same behavior recurs once the immediate discomfort passes. The third thing to consider is whether the communication respects your right to take time before responding. Genuine apologies do not include pressure for immediate response or for specific outcomes. They include space for the recipient to absorb what has been communicated and to respond on their own timeline. If the communication pressures you in any way, the pressuring is information about how much actual change has occurred. If the communication offers you space, the offering is also information about who they have become through this experience. I want to share an orientation about how to respond if you choose to engage. You do not need to immediately decide whether to reestablish the previous closeness. You can respond at the level of acknowledgement without committing to anything beyond the acknowledgement. You can say, in whatever language is comfortable for you, that you have heard what they have shared and that you appreciate the openness, while also indicating that you need time to consider what comes next. The honest response is what serves the situation. Performances of either immediate forgiveness or definitive refusal both tend to produce outcomes you may later wish to revise. I want to mention something specific about what your honest response might involve. You may have things you want to communicate to them about what their pushing away cost you. The cost is real. It deserves to be named. You can name it without doing so harshly. The naming gives them information about the impact of their behavior, which is part of the information they need in order to actually change. Without the naming, they may underestimate what they did. The naming is a service to the relationship's possibility, if the relationship has a possibility. You may also have things to communicate about your own state during the period of distance, what you have been doing, how you have been processing, what has clarified for you. These communications are not required, but they may be useful, depending on the depth of the conversation that develops. The mutual sharing of what each of you has been going through can become a foundation for whatever comes next. I want to address a specific question that may be forming for you: whether to re-engage with this person given what has happened. The question is yours to answer. The answer depends on factors that include your assessment of what kind of relationship is actually possible going forward, your sense of whether the changes in them are durable, your awareness of what you actually want in your life, and various circumstantial factors that only you have full access to. I cannot tell you what the answer should be. I can tell you that the question deserves serious consideration rather than reflexive response in either direction. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to share an observation that I think will help with the consideration. People who push others away out of fear of vulnerability, when they recognize what they have done and undertake real work on themselves, can develop into much more capable partners than they were before. The growth is possible. It is not automatic. It requires sustained effort over time in conditions that support the effort. But it does happen. And when it happens, the resulting relationships are often more substantial than relationships that did not pass through similar difficulty. The passing through forced both parties to develop capacities they would not otherwise have developed. That said, the growth is not always sustained. Sometimes the recognition of having pushed someone away produces a temporary opening that closes again once the immediate discomfort passes. The temporary nature of the opening is one of the risks of re-engaging after a pushing away. The risk can be assessed only over time through observation of consistent behavior. Words can promise sustained growth. Behavior over weeks and months demonstrates it. If you re-engage, watch the behavior more than the words. The behavior will tell you what is actually occurring. I want to share something specific about a particular feature of how this person is currently experiencing the situation. They are thinking about you a great deal. The thinking is not the casual mental presence that exists in most relationships. It is something closer to preoccupation. You occupy a significant portion of their interior attention, even when they are engaged in other activities. The preoccupation is uncomfortable for them because they cannot easily address what is producing it through their usual coping mechanisms. The discomfort is part of what is driving them toward the eventual attempt at communication. I want to mention something about the specific quality of how they feel about you. The title uses the word crazy, and I want to handle that word carefully. The crazy in the title is not the chaotic crazy. It is the intensity of feeling crazy. They feel for you at an intensity that is more than they have felt for others, and the intensity is what makes their inability to handle it earlier so significant. They could have managed lower intensity feeling without resorting to distance. The high intensity overwhelmed their usual emotional management. The overwhelming is what produced the unfortunate response. They are now sitting with both the feeling and the awareness of how they handled it, which is a substantial interior load. I want to address what may be useful to communicate to them if you do engage. Communicating clearly about your own boundaries is one of the most valuable things you can offer. The clarity helps them understand what would and would not be acceptable in any continuing relationship. Without clarity about your boundaries, they may guess wrong about what you need, which can produce patterns that recreate the earlier difficulties. With clarity, they have specific information they can work with. The information is a form of generosity, not of harshness. It tells them what they need to know in order to engage well. I want to share something about a particular kind of conversation that might serve both of you. The conversation in which you each acknowledge, with as much specificity as possible, what you actually want from a relationship together going forward. The acknowledgement is not a demand. It is just an honest sharing of what each of you would consider meaningful and sustainable. The sharing allows both of you to see whether what each wants is compatible with what the other can offer. The seeing produces, in its own time, the basis for a decision about whether to continue and on what terms. I want to mention something about a particular emotional state that may be present in you alongside the developments. You may experience moments of softness toward this person that surprise you with their warmth. The softness may seem inconsistent with the difficulty of what has occurred. I want to share that the softness is also valid. You can be hurt by someone and still feel softness toward them. The dual capacity is one of the markers of mature emotional life. It does not require you to forgive prematurely or to commit to anything beyond the recognition that the connection between you contains real warmth alongside whatever has been difficult. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the dignity with which you have handled the period of distance. You have not chased. You have not performed wounded innocence. You have continued to live your life and to maintain your own equilibrium. The handling has been observed, both by this person and by others who have witnessed your situation. The observing has produced respect. The respect is one of the qualities that has informed how this person now thinks about you. They have come to understand, partly through observing how you handled the distance, that you have substance they had perhaps not fully appreciated before. The substance is now part of what is drawing them back. I want to share an orientation about the period of approach to whatever communication they will attempt. Continue living your life. Do not put yourself on hold in anticipation of what will happen. The communication, whenever it arrives, will reach you wherever you are. There is no special positioning required. The continuing to live is what maintains your equilibrium, which is the foundation from which you will engage with whatever happens. I want to mention a small practice that may serve you during this period. When the thought of this person arises, allow it to arise without immediately doing anything with it. Notice the thought. Observe what feeling accompanies it. Then return your attention to whatever is in front of you. The practice of noticing without acting on is one of the practices of mature emotional life. It allows you to remain aware of the situation without being controlled by it. The awareness without control is the right posture for navigating complex emotional terrain. I want to address something about your own healing during the period of distance. You have done significant interior work in the time since the pushing away occurred. The work has produced clarification, capacity, and a kind of settled understanding of who you are independent of this specific relationship. The settled understanding is one of your assets. It is what allows you to consider any re-engagement from a position of choice rather than from a position of need. The choice is yours. You can exercise it freely, in whichever direction your discernment indicates. I want to share something about what this person now understands about you that they may not have understood before. They have come to recognize the quality of attention you offered when you were close. They have realized that the quality is not common, that not everyone is capable of attending the way you attended. The realization has come from the absence of your attention during the period of distance, which has shown them by comparison what your attention had been. The realization is one of the things that is producing their current sorrow. They miss what they did not fully appreciate while they had it. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to mention something specific about the gift dimension of all of this. The recognition this person has come to is, in some sense, a gift to you. Not because their suffering benefits you, but because their recognition is a confirmation of who you are. You have been seen by someone whose seeing has now matured into accurate perception. The perception is one of the things that informs how they are now thinking about you. The thinking is grounded in actual appreciation of what you bring. The grounding is one of the markers of feeling that has substance rather than just intensity. I want to share something about what may surprise you if you engage with the eventual communication. The other person may articulate things about you or about their experience of you that you did not realize they had noticed. The articulation will demonstrate the depth of attention they have actually been paying, even during periods when their behavior suggested otherwise. People sometimes pay close attention while behaving in ways that seem distant. The behavior and the attention can operate at different levels. The articulation of detailed attention will tell you that even during the pushing away, you were not absent from their inner life. I want to mention something about how to handle the moment of receiving acknowledgement if it arrives in a form that lands meaningfully for you. There may be an impulse to either immediately accept and rush back into closeness or to defensively maintain distance to protect against repeat harm. Neither extreme is required. You can receive what is acknowledged with appropriate openness while also maintaining the considered pace that the situation requires. The middle position is what allows the situation to develop in a healthy direction if a healthy direction is possible. I want to address what may be the most important question for you in this situation. The question is what you actually want from this relationship now, given everything that has happened. The question deserves careful consideration. The answer may not be obvious. It may include elements of wanting re-engagement and elements of wanting to protect yourself from repetition of harm. Both elements are valid. The answer that integrates both is the answer most aligned with your actual interests. The integration may involve cautious openness, or it may involve firm limits, or it may involve some other configuration that you discover through reflection. I want to share something about what kind of relationship is possible going forward if both of you choose to invest in it. The relationship would be different from what existed before the pushing away. The difference would come from both of you having learned things. The other person would have learned to handle vulnerability more directly, rather than converting it into distance. You would have learned what your limits are, what your needs are, what you can and cannot accept. The two of you, with the new learning, could build something more substantial than what existed before. The substantialness would come from the increased honesty, the developed capacity, and the conscious awareness of the patterns that previously produced difficulty. I want to mention something about the long arc, in case it helps you orient. Relationships that pass through this kind of testing and that develop into healthier configurations tend to be unusually durable. The durability comes from having faced something difficult together and from having found that the connection could survive the facing. The survival becomes part of the foundation of the relationship. The relationship knows itself as capable of holding difficulty. The knowing makes it more sustainable than relationships that have not been tested. So if you and this person are able to work through what is currently active, the relationship that results may be one of the more durable elements of your life going forward. I want to address a possible alternate outcome. If, after engaging with the communication, you decide that the relationship is not what you want to continue with, that decision is also valid. You are not obligated to give a relationship another chance simply because the other person has recognized their mistakes. Your well being is the primary consideration. If continuing the relationship, even in a modified form, does not feel like it serves your well being, you can decline the renewal. The declining is not a failure of generosity. It is an appropriate response to a situation in which the cost of continuing exceeds the benefit. Trust your own assessment of where the balance falls. I want to acknowledge that the situation is emotionally complex. There is no simple right answer that does not require careful navigation. The navigation requires you to attend to multiple considerations simultaneously, including your feelings, your needs, the realistic prospects for change, and your sense of what your future life would benefit from. The attending is its own work. It may take time. You can give it the time it needs. The decisions you make from full attending will be decisions you can stand by. I want to take a moment to acknowledge what you have been through during the period of distance. The pushing away produced real pain. The pain has been carried. The carrying has cost you something. The carrying has also produced growth. Both are true. The acknowledgement of what you have been through is part of how you move forward. The acknowledgement does not require you to dwell. It just requires honest recognition of what has occurred before you decide what comes next. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to share what I think is the most important orientation for you to hold. You are loved by someone who is currently sad and sorry about how they handled their love. The love is real, the sadness is real, the sorry is real. All three coexist in this person right now. How they will translate into action depends on their own continued development and on the conditions of what becomes possible between you. You can engage with the situation from a position of full information, full self-awareness, and full attention to what you actually want. I want to share something about the texture of the days that may follow. There will probably be a period of approach during which you can feel the situation moving but cannot yet specify exactly what will happen. Then there will be a moment of communication, when the other person actually reaches toward you in some form. Then there will be a period of consideration, during which you decide how to engage. Then there will be whatever develops between you, in its own time, with its own pace. Each phase has its own work. Each phase will reveal more about what is actually occurring. You will move through them one at a time. I want to acknowledge the courage that engaging with this situation requires. Engaging with someone who previously caused you pain, even when they are now apologizing, is not easy. The engaging requires you to risk being hurt again. The risk is real. You can mitigate the risk through careful attention, through clear communication, through the maintenance of your own equilibrium. But you cannot eliminate the risk entirely. Some courage is required. You have courage. You have demonstrated it before. You can demonstrate it again if engaging is what you choose. Or you can choose not to engage. And that choice also requires its own form of courage. The courage of saying no to a possibility that contains both promise and danger. The courage of trusting that better will come, that you do not have to accept what is being offered just because it is available. Either choice is courageous in its own way. Either choice is honorable. You can choose according to your own discernment. I want to share an emphasis on what is most reliable in what I have been describing. The most reliable element is that this person genuinely feels what they feel, including both the love and the sorry. The reliability of those feelings does not guarantee any specific outcome, but it tells you that what you receive from them, if you receive anything, is grounded in actual interior state rather than in performance. The grounding makes the engagement, if it occurs, more substantial than performances would produce. You are not at the mercy of this situation. You have agency. You can engage or not engage. You can set terms or not set terms. You can decide on your own timeline. The agency is yours, and using it is the appropriate response to a situation in which the other person has demonstrated through their previous behavior that they cannot be relied upon to drive the relationship in good directions on their own. You have to bring your own clarity. The clarity will produce the right outcomes for you. Walk into the coming period with the awareness that something is moving, that the movement is in your direction in some form, and that you have the resources to engage with whatever arrives in ways that honor both your possibility of receiving and your right to protect yourself. The combination of openness and self-protection is the practice. The practice will produce, in its own time, the right next steps. The right next steps will lead to whatever future is actually meant for you. You are loved. The loving has been complicated, but it is real. The complication has produced both pain and growth. The growth is yours. The pain is being acknowledged by someone who has come to understand their role in producing it. Whether to allow that acknowledgement to open into renewed connection is your decision to make. Make it from clarity, from self-knowledge, and from honest assessment of what serves your life going forward. The making of the decision is itself a step in your continuing development. Trust yourself, trust the unfolding, trust the work you have done. All of these have produced the position you are now in, which is a position of strength. From the position of strength, the decisions you make will produce good outcomes, whichever direction you choose. The good outcomes will continue to support your continuing flourishing. The flourishing is yours, regardless of how this specific situation resolves. Walk forward with the calm of someone who has done significant interior work and who can now afford to engage with complex situations from a settled place. The settledness is one of your accomplishments. It will serve you here. It will serve you in everything that follows. You are well equipped. The equipment will be available when the moments require it. Trust this, live in this. The continuing is the practice. The practice is enough. The practice produces, over time, the life that is meant for you. The life is good. The life is yours.